Hi everybody, welcome to week 6, which is, today is Monday, July 16th, at least the day I'm recording this is. I missed a lot of you last week in doing both the movies and the labs, so don't forget the missing lab policy is really critical. So if you didn't do the 2 labs last week, you still have a few days to go back and do them and earn partial credit. So you don't want to see zeros in the grade book. That's when your final course grade will be affected. And if you have forgotten what the missing lab policy is, please go back and review one of my many announcements, or check the syllabus, or even check that syllabus quiz you did in the very first week. You answered a question about it there. All right, so there's that. Let's now move on to this week. So what are we doing in week 6? Well, we are reviewing for exam number 3, which covers chapter 6, 7, and 8. So again, I recommend you do the exam first, because then the new material for the week is chapter 9, which is not covered in the exam. So a lot of students hate to learn material that isn't covered in an exam. So do the exam first, then do chapter 9. And what else you've got to do? You've got 2 labs, an acid rain lab, which is pretty cool, and then a buffer lab. Real quick, acid rain. I'm sure you've heard the term. Do you realize you've probably, or no, I shouldn't even say probably, you've definitely seen evidence of acid rain in your life. Have you ever been to a cemetery and you've seen headstones? They're usually older ones, but headstones that are like, they look like they're disintegrating. Well, that's from the acid rain that is dissolving them. And then buffers, our second lab. The most common buffer is, anybody know? Our blood. Our blood is a buffer. Anyways, lots of other things that are buffers, and you're going to talk about buffers. Goes along real well with what we've been doing with acids and bases in our lab. And then you have one movie this week, Renewable Energy. This is a pretty good one, especially for the day and age it is now, and we're looking towards using more and more renewable energy versus fossil fuels that are non-renewable. Anyways, that's what you've got going on this week. Let me come back to the modules real quick. Whoops, if I can. For the 16th, so again, you've got the exam and homework. So that's McGraw-Hill Connect. Lab, chapter 9, lecture video, homework, lab number 11, and then the movie Renewable Energy. You guys, one last thing. A couple of you are struggling with the pictures for the labs. It's very clear what your picture has to show. And show doesn't mean, 20 feet away, take a picture of yourself. I need to be able to see it. So for instance, get your sign, your piece of paper. Doesn't have to be anything fancy, and it usually isn't, which is fine. Sign with your name, date, and the lab name or number, and then the Petri dish after step 10. So when you're doing the lab and you finish step 10, your Petri dish, I need to see a picture. So stand up, take the picture from the top down so I can see what's inside the Petri dish along with your sign. Okay, a couple of you had to return labs because your pictures either were funky files, or I couldn't see what I needed to see, or you didn't take a picture at the right step. So it's always listed right here with the Dropbox. Make sure that you're following that. And with that, you guys, the only other thing I want to remind you, we're almost to the end of the semester, or the summer. Can you believe that? We're in week 6. This is week 7 next week. A lot of stuff going on next week. And then July 30th, that's our very last week together, where you have one more homework, an exam, a final exam, a movie, but no labs because you've got a couple of exams and things to do that week. So this week and next week are your last labs. We've got 4 labs left. 2 this week, and then 2 next week, and you're all set with your labs. And then in 2 weeks, we'll be looking at our last week of class. So we're getting there. If anybody wants to work ahead, you're welcome to. Just a reminder, and I'll say this now, the next couple of welcome videos, the final exam is taken in Eagle. It is not in McGraw-Hill. So you do your regular exams and your homework in McGraw-Hill, but the final exam, you click here, it'll actually be in Eagle. That is it. I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope you're staying cool.